6 American soldiers are dead. More than 20 others were wounded, and the Secretary of Defense stood before Congress this week and called the soldiers who survived that attack liars. A United States Army veteran and sitting congressman looked Pete Hegseth in the eye inside a formal hearing room and said those 4 words that shook Washington. You need to resign immediately. This is the story of what really happened at a military base in Kuwait on the second day of America's war with Iran. And it is a story about a defense secretary who has repeatedly misled the American public about how those 6 soldiers died and what the Pentagon knew before they were sent into a position that survivors described as completely undefected. To understand this, you need to go back to March 1st, 2026. It was the second day of Operation Epic Fury, the joint United States and Israeli military campaign against Iran that launched on February 28th. In the early hours of that morning, an Iranian drone struck a tactical operations center at the port of Shuaiba in Kuwait. 6 United States Army Reserve soldiers were killed. More than 20 others were wounded. All 6 of the dead were members of the 103rd Sustainment Command based in Des Moines, Iowa. They were not combat troops in the traditional sense. They were logistics soldiers, managing the movement of equipment, munitions, and personnel across the Middle East. They were in Kuwait doing support work, and they were killed inside what the Pentagon would later describe as a fortified position. That description turned out to be critically important because the surviving soldiers who were there that day tell a completely different story. When the drone hit, there were no warning sirens. There were no alerts telling troops to evacuate or take cover. According to a congressional letter signed by Senator Elizabeth Warren and 3 other Democratic senators, soldiers after the attack triaged themselves with makeshift bandages, braces, and tourniquets. They commandeered civilian vehicles to drive the wounded to local Kuwaiti hospitals because they had no other option. This was not a story of a drone sneaking past a wall of sophisticated defenses. This was a story of soldiers working in a makeshift operations center with essentially no protection against the type of weapon that killed them. Now here is what Pete Hegseth told the public shortly after the attack. He described the Iranian drone as a squirter, his word, suggesting it was a single drone that somehow managed to get through America's incredible air defenders. He described the base as fortified. He implied this was an unfortunate but acceptable consequence of a war being fought with strong defensive systems in place. Multiple survivors of that attack spoke to CBS News on the condition of anonymity, and what they said directly contradicted everything Hegseth told the public. One injured soldier said, and these are direct quotes from the survivor, that painting a picture that one squeaked through is a falsehood. Another said the unit was unprepared to provide any defense for itself. It was not a fortified position. A third survivor, when asked what drone defense capabilities were in place at the base, gave an answer that should stop every American in their tracks. That soldier said, "I would put it in the none category. From a drone defense capability, none. None. Not insufficient, not limited, none." And there is more. According to the congressional letter sent to Hegseth, service members at that base had already seen intelligence showing the post they were relocated to was on a list of potential Iranian targets. Multiple officials with knowledge of the situation told reporters there had been active discussions on the ground about whether the Tactical Operations Center should not have been used at all, because it concentrated too many troops in a location that was not defensible. The risks were known, the intelligence was there, and those soldiers were sent in anyway, with no counter-drone capabilities, no counter-rocket systems, no counter-mortar or counter-artillery systems in place. This is the backdrop for what happened on April 29th, inside the House Armed Services Committee hearing room. Representative Patrick Ryan of New York took his seat across from Pete Hegseth. Ryan is not a politician who read about war in books. He is an Iraq War combat veteran. He is the first West Point graduate to represent the Academy in Congress. He has worn the uniform. He has been downrange. He knows what it means to send soldiers into a position with inadequate protection, and he knows what it means to lose men. Ryan asked Hegseth directly whether the base in Port Shuba had appeared on a Department of Defense list of potential Iranian targets. Hegseth's response was to ask Ryan if he was going to play gotcha, the same phrase that his colleague at the Defense Department had used just hours earlier when Ro Khanna asked about gas prices. Gotcha. That is the word they reach for when they do not want to answer a straight question. Ryan pressed forward. He read the survivor testimony directly into the record. He quoted the soldier who called Hegseth's description a falsehood. He quoted the soldier who described the unit as unprepared to provide any defense for itself. He quoted the soldier who said from a drone defense capability, none. And then Ryan asked Hegseth the most direct question of the entire hearing. Are you saying these soldiers, our soldiers, who survived this horrific attack, are lying? Hegseth's response was to interrupt and begin talking about the broader picture of troop movements across the theater. He said he had put the military in maximum defensive posture before the conflict began. He noted that 7,500 troops had been moved off bases deemed at risk. Ryan cut him off. Stop, he said. You just called what they said a falsehood. Hegseth said there is a much larger picture at play. Ryan said he was not playing games. Hegseth told him not to play games by raising his voice and pointing his finger. Ryan's final words in that exchange cut through everything else in that hearing room. He quoted a survivor of the attack who said that telling the truth is important, and we are not going to learn from these mistakes if we pretend these mistakes did not happen. And then, Patrick Ryan, an Army veteran who served his country in Iraq, looked at Pete Hegseth and said, "You need to resign immediately." Ryan was not the only one. Democratic Representative Salud Carbajal, another veteran, had said something almost as pointed. He told Hegseth directly, "You were incompetent then, you are incompetent now, and you are the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to incompetence." Democratic Representative Chrissy Houlihan, an Air Force veteran, pressed Hegseth on his comparison of the Iran war to Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, all conflicts Hegseth had cited as examples of wars that went on far longer. Houlihan's response was blistering. She said those were stunning examples of something that did not go our way, and that the country had the opportunity to execute those wars well, but failed to accomplish any mission in any of them. She was pointing out that Hegseth was comparing the Iran war favorably to three of the most catastrophic American military failures of the last 50 years. Beyond the Kuwait attack, the hearing revealed a broader pattern of answers that raised serious questions. When Representative Adam Smith asked Hegseth what the ultimate end goal of the war actually is, Hegseth said the goal is to get Iran to a point where they are at the table, giving up nuclear weapons. But when pressed on whether the war had achieved anything on the nuclear front, Hegseth had already claimed earlier in that same hearing that Iran's nuclear facilities had been obliterated. Smith immediately pointed out the contradiction. He said, 2 months ago you told us the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you are saying it was completely obliterated. Smith's conclusion was that the war had left the United States at exactly the same place it was before it started. Independent verification from the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency added weight to that assessment. The IAEA's director told the Associated Press that the majority of Iran's highly enriched uranium is likely still sitting at its Isfahan nuclear complex. The facilities that were supposed to be obliterated may still be largely intact. And the war has now killed 13 American service members total, wounded hundreds more, cost a Pentagon admitted $25 billion in direct military spending alone, pushed oil to over $100 a barrel, and kept the Strait of Hormuz blocked, sending gas prices to more than $4 per gallon across the country. The families of those 6 soldiers killed in Kuwait on March 1st deserve answers. They deserve to know whether their loved ones were sent into a position that the Pentagon already knew was on Iran's target list. They deserve to know why there were 0 counter-drone capabilities at a base that sat in the crosshairs of a country everyone knew would retaliate the moment the bombs started falling. They deserve to know why the man who runs the Pentagon described that base as fortified when the soldiers who bled there say the defenses were in the none category. Pat Ryan put those questions on the record. He did it as a congressman and as a soldier who understands what accountability to the troops actually looks like. And when he did not get real answers, he said the only thing left to say: you need to resign immediately. Whether that call is ever answered is a question only the people watching this from the White House can decide. But the questions Pat Ryan asked do not go away because Hegseth called them gotcha. They live in the testimony of the soldiers who survived, and in the silence of the 6 who did not.